I'm with Florida International University. We're one of the co-sponsors of the event here today, along with Florida Division of Emergency Management. That's why it's a free day today, so we really appreciate Florida Division of Emergency Management for their support. Let's give them a big round of applause. So we have a lot of players, as you've seen, throughout the museum. We're still going to go till 5 o'clock, all the entertainment, all the activities. But in addition to FDEM, we've got Broward Emergency Management, Miami-Dade Emergency Management, City of Fort Lauderdale Emergency Management, Florida Power and Light, Beacon TV set up that TV exhibit. If you see the air cannon outside the front doors, that's going to continue all the way to 5 o'clock. They're shooting missiles at different sugar products, so you can see the power of flying debris. We also have great supporters and partners from the NOAA side of things, and we have NOAA National Hurricane Center, National Weather Service, and AOML, the Hurricane Research Division, who helps coordinate then the NOAA P3 research flights. And we have our FIU students downstairs talking about wind engineering. We have FIU meteorology students downstairs as well. We got trucks parked outside the museum, all there for you to kind of check them out. And again, we're all here to get prepared, and we're going to talk about that in a moment, but we now have a very, very, very special guest for you. And you know, when there's a hurricane out there, we have to get data and information. And we have to send aircraft into those storms, to the eye of the storm, like the name of this event. And they're very dangerous and turbulent flights. How many here has been on a roller coaster? Okay, well, think of a roller coaster times 10, and that's what sometimes they feel when they fly into the storm. Who here would love to fly into a hurricane, do you think? Okay, we got a few. All right, so with that in mind, we have a very special guest. We have someone here who actually has flown into hurricanes right here, right now. You get to meet a real hurricane hunter. Let's give him a big round of applause. Stanley Goldenberg. All right. Thanks for coming, Stan. This is totally awesome. At this point, let's talk a little bit about what it takes to fly into a storm, what is it like to fly in a storm, and then we'll talk about the preparedness of the day. But first of all, tell us about what it's like to get ready and fly into a storm and why you do it.
Well, let me tell you one thing. I don't wear flip-flops on our hurricane flight. You wear hard-toed shoes. These are flame-resistant suits. You don't eat too much because it is rough by nature. We do not fly over the top and tunnel on down. We have to fly right through. What's the strongest part of the storm? Who knows? What's it called? The strongest part, what? The eye is calm. What's around the eye? Come on, somebody. What's the wall around the eye? The wall around the eye. The eye wall. Okay. So that's where the strongest part of the storm is. We have to go right through that into the middle. And let me tell you, someone asked me, in fact, by the way, anybody who wants them, we can pass these out or I can put them on the stage. I have a little card, not a fancy card, with a bunch of helpful hurricane links. But on the bottom, it has several personal links, like my story on Hurricane Andrew, our flight into Hurricane Katrina, that you can see, which I filmed, and even me on Conan O'Brien talking about hurricanes, believe it or not. And then our hurricane getting stronger because of climate change. I'm a world expert on that, and that's on here too. But yeah, we could pass them out or I could put them on the stage. But Conan asked, what's it like to fly into a hurricane? I said, well, some of the times it's downright boring because it take us a long time to get out there, it can be hours and hours. But when you get in, especially a strong storm, it's like a bumping bronco or a roller coaster in the sky. And then you get into the center, and it's awesome beauty from sea to sky. You see that little empty hole in the middle of the satellite pictures? When you get in there, no matter how many times you've done it, your mouth kind of just hangs open. It's just And it's hard to realize, oh, that's where the worst winds are. That's going to cause all sorts of devastation. And we get in there because that's when we get the best data. Is actually going there. We get data from satellites, we get data from all sorts of things. But these, NOAA flies some of the most heavily instrumented aircraft in the world. Now the Air Force also flies, Air Force Reserve. They fly much more than we do. They're out there all the time. We go out there mainly for research and sometimes to help with operations. But they risk their life too going out there. We have to go through all sorts of survival training. And it's interesting, we get on the flight, and I never get tired of this. The pilot will gather around because on the P-3 Orion aircraft, we have about 20 people total in the crew. If you have a scientist, people operating the plane. And the pilot will get everybody together. He says, okay, what's the number one mission today? And what he says is safety. The main thing that when he gets back alive. And then we might have 10 different things. We drop all sorts of instruments. We drop even nitty unmanned plane dropping out of the chute, and then their wings go out and they fly down. It's incredible. If you visit the NOAA booth, which is near the robotic arm, somewhere over there, you can see some of the actual stuff that we use. But it's incredible how much data we gather. Now, something a lot of people don't know, we drop something else occasionally. We might be doing it this year. We did it back in 2018. A dear colleague of ours, Michael Black, who pioneered a lot of our science, passed away. The family wanted, because we can request that, his ashes to be dropped in a hurricane, in the eye. So they had him wrapped, I can get emotional with a dear friend, wrapped in a flag of his state. So I think it was Virginia. And we brought in there, did a special, like a funeral at sea service, just probably not a dry eye in the plane. And what was the name of the storm? Michael. So Michael was dropped in Michael. That's the one that hit the panhandle back in 2018. When we go in there, it's incredible.
Is that the first time ever ashes have been dropped?
No, they've done it for a number of other things.
They have done it.
It's not often, but we might be doing Peter Dobbins this year. In fact, he pioneered a lot of the work. One of the instruments we drop is called the droplet sound. So it's a little canister, like about 3 or 4 beer cans, you know, that size. It measures temperature, pressure, wind, humidity from the plane down to the surface. The data is worth gold. I mean, so he had pioneered a lot of that work. Everybody on the plane signed one of them, and we dropped it in this category 4 hurricane. So, but we go out there, listen, we, believe it or not, we enjoy it. I love to do it. You learn so much, and it's just neat, and the whole experience. But the data is very valuable. We take it very seriously. I was in Hurricane Katrina. In fact, if you get this, the videos on here is the flight into Hurricane Katrina when it was hitting New Orleans and Mississippi. We were flying it right at that time, and you know, you hit the stuff and the bumps and bruises. I've never gotten sick, but we have turbulent meters. You know what the turbulence meters are? Vomit bags. And sometimes everybody gets sick. It's a weird flight. But, so anyway, are there any questions?
Does anyone have any question in the audience for Stan? What it's like to fly into a hurricane?
I see this little girl.
Oh, right over here, and then we'll come back over here.
Does someone want to help hand these out?
She's saying, she's very smart. And she's saying that going into the hurricane, it could be very windy and your hair could blow everywhere.
Oh, yeah, especially if we get outside. Listen, I was on the ground during Hurricane Andrew. My story's on one of those videos. I'd much rather be in the plane than on the ground. Because the plane doesn't care that the winds are 200 miles an hour. You know that. Because when you fly on some flights, you go through the jet stream. You go through, it's the turbulence. The house does care that the winds are 200 miles an hour, and my house was ripped apart. Go ahead.
All right, another question. We'll come over here and then come right back.
What is the procedure if everyone starts vomiting on the plane?
You get more vomit bags. We have real high-tech ones now. I saw one in the hospital, and they got it for everywhere. It's plastic, you can turn it. They can't land it. I mean, they have extra pilots and people, and you just sit down. I mean, we've had people, I won't say his name, he used to be with us, he's at the Hurricane Center now, But he was operating one of the instruments, and he came over to me and he said, "Can you please take over?" Because he was about to lose it. We've had people vomit, and sometimes the bag has broke. That happened on one flight. And I tried to help the guy, and I'm like, I couldn't, you know what that's like.
Okay, so moving on.
Yeah.
Did you want? Okay, right over here.
How does the plane not crash while you're flying through something with winds like that?
What happens is these are turboprops, and they're really weather planes. They're like Navy weather planes. They're designed that they can go through intense weather. And the pilots really, I'd much rather be one of our flights in a hurricane than in a commercial flight just going through a thunderstorm. Because our guys know what to do, they know how to handle it, and they avoid, when possible, the absolute worst. Because they're looking at the radar, and they say, oh, there's a pink cell right there, and if they can, they go around it. But even sometimes we don't see it. I haven't been on some of the worst flights. I have been, what happens is, if you have negative G, which means the plane drops, everything that's not tied down, we're strapped in 5 ways, will fly. And we had one flight, the worst flight we've ever had in recent times. In all these years, they've only lost one plane. It was back in the 50s, a Navy plane. But the worst flight was Hurricane Hugo, which hit Carolinas and hit Puerto Rico, 1989. They went in Cat 5, they shook them, they flew low at 1,500 feet. Our planes go up to 2,200 feet, but we fly at different altitudes, and then we have a jet that goes 45,000 feet. That still can't go over the plane, over the storm. But one of the engines flamed out right before they entered the guy wall. It had what we call all these meso vortices that were spinning around. It got tossed around mercilessly, like a life raft broke loose, bent the pole. We still see some of the damage. The coffee pot broke from the bolts. I mean, it was a total disaster. They got into the center. They had dropped to 800 feet. And there were 2 other planes, and they had to guide them out. They had to circle for an hour and a half to get high enough where it wasn't as bad. And they had to, don't tell anybody, they had to dump fuel. Because they had just taken off. You can't land when you got that much fuel, so they had to circle up. And some of those people, how many of you ever heard of the Weather Underground website? Jeff Masters, the guy who made that, was on that flight. He never flew again. There's a couple other people. But so many people on that flight became directors of hurricane research, directors of the hurricane center. I mean, if they had lost that flight, so that's one of the worst. But we have had flights where everybody gets sick. I just haven't been on that.
Anyone else have a question? Yes, well, hold on.
Can you tell us what your journey was before getting to fly into hurricanes? How did you end up there?
Well, first of all, it's how I got into meteorology. So I've always been I've always been a science and math, but I had no idea what I was going to major. I remember I was going back to Miami-Dade Junior College at that point, and I was going there, and I still didn't know what I was going to major. And my mother came back to my room and said, "Have you ever thought of weather?" And I looked at her as like, weather? I was not a weather geek. I thought, my mother suggested it, let me try it. That's why I'm here today. I got a job at the Hurricane Research Division with a different name then, and started flying. If you're there and you want to fly, you can fly. And so I've flown through the eye of hurricanes over 100 times. We have people 500 times, much more. But I've flown many. I haven't flown as much recently, but I'm probably flying a lot this year.
So fascinating, and now we're moving into a new hurricane season that's expected to possibly be busy. So Stan, what are your thoughts about moving into this new season?
How many of you have heard about the NOAA Outlook that was issued a week ago, got on the news, of what we said we thought this season would be like? How many of you noticed it in the news? None of you. You probably heard it somewhere and didn't know where it was from. Okay, so I'm one of the writers of the official NOAA Seasonal Outlook. And we issue it in May, the end of May, and then the beginning of August. Because who knows? What are the peak 3 months of the hurricane season? What are the most important things you can know? Who knows? Yell it out. Go ahead. What? Yes. August, September, October. The reason is, sometimes we have stuff in June, July, sometimes we don't. But the peak is August, September, October. So you want to, no matter what happens before then, that's one thing, maybe by the middle of August, things start to rev up. But we said that this year, we gave it an 85% chance, which is really high for us in May, that it was going to be above average activity. Now let me tell you, even average is a lot of activity. Above average is a lot of activity. But that doesn't mean we'll get hit. It only takes one storm. You have to be ready every year. If you hear people on the news say, no one predicted the most active season ever, then they're totally misunderstanding what we're doing. And in fact, the link for the actual outlook is on that little piece of paper. So, but you have to be ready every year. Every year. You know, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, or Palm Beach could get hit by a Cat 5 hurricane this year. That's the truth. It's not even says it can. Andrew hit us in Miami during a very slow year. So you have to be ready every year. Let me give you a little tip on hurricane preparedness. And if you visit our booth there, I've got the 5 P's of preparedness, but I've got all sorts of sheets, all sorts of links to help you. And there's all sorts of exhibits here to help you. The key is at the beginning of the season, or at least by August, you want to do your general plan. Like shutters, the emergency goods, everything like that. Have them all in place. And then when a storm approaches, 3 days out, 4 days out, that's when you do your last 2 things. That's when you try to evacuate. But don't sit there running to the store to get all this stuff right before a storm. Have it in place early as you can.
There you go. That's the message of the day. We're here to get ready for the hurricane season. That's why we're all here today. We hope you can continue your day today. The Tsunami Tim show is going to start at 3:30. A very popular show as well. But this was really a treat to have hurricane hunter Stan Goldenberg here. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Thank you all.
And we certainly thank you for your service. And he has a booth right across from the elevator if you want to get more information and talk to his team. Thank you all, and again, in 10 minutes, we're going to start the Tsunami Tim show. Thank you.
And thank you from Arizona and the other people that partnered to do this incredible event. I think it's just wonderful every year. Thank you.